I want to talk with you about the time that you spent living in a teepee.
Mm.
How long have you lived in the teepee?
I spent a whole summer and a whole winter in a teepee, so almost a year.
And yeah, I'm curious about, because I've been in a yurt and you've lived in a yurt, and how does it? What's the difference from a yurt to a teepee when you live in there?
Mm. Yeah, in a teepee you are more exposed to the elements, and it depends how you set it up. Like in my first half in the summer in the teepee, I was living in my teepee and I had a floor, so I made a floor with pallets and some carpet. So that was actually quite comfortable, and I had some furniture in the teepee. But you do have in the teepee you have a hole at the top because the bamboo poles come together, and then there's like the space, like a circular space where the rain can come in. So you have to have a rain catcher to catch that, and also make sure that when the rain runs down the poles that there's no dripping happening. Otherwise you have various places where your water drips, and you cannot really avoid that. It just happens every so often that you have a drip coming through somehow because water does its own thing. And then also it's there's, even though you have a teepee liner, so you have like a skirt, like you have the canvas outside and then you have a skirt that goes on the inside to have more insulation, or cover from wind or something like that. It's still open, like there's still airflow coming through there, and you don't have any insulation in the wall. So in the yurt you have wool bats in the walls and in the roof, and also I had wool on the floor, and I had a wooden floor, and it was all beautiful, and I had a fire that I could light in the yurt. And in the teepee, and in the summer teepee I did have a fireplace, but I did like a fire in the middle, but I never lit this, I think, except once because I didn't need to. And in the teepee in winter where I stayed in, so I had no flooring. It was just like earth with some leaves and twigs or something on the ground, and there was a fire in there, and I didn't use that fire very often. I used that fire maybe a couple of times or something like that, but it wasn't in use so much. So yeah, it was really just in winter living in the teepee with a hot water bottle, and at the beginning sleeping actually, so whilst in the teepee in summer I had a bed, in that other teepee I was sleeping on the floor. So my partner at the time, he had made the floor with twigs and leaves and ferns and things from the forest, but for me it became a bit rough over time, so I got a mattress to sleep on the ground. I couldn't sleep with my back on the hard surface. It was too hard for me to keep going like that. And yeah, sleeping in there with two people was different because you take up more space with your bed. You cannot, in both teepee, well in the summer it was different. In summer it was dry enough that I had a commode, like a cupboard like there to have clothing in, and that was fine in summer. But in winter you cannot have any clothes or any books outside because it's too damp. So it's a very damp setup, whereby my clothing was in like what is it, like these plastic bags, like not plastic bags, but the outdoor bags. Like I had outdoor bags where they were staying dry, or I would store them somewhere in a shed, in a plastic container or so. Like I could not have anything lying around. And the space was really small. Like in the winter it was a really small space for two people. Like you have a surface area that might be 10 square meters, but because it goes up, you really end up having like 6 square meters or something like that between two people. So it's a very tight space to live in together, and at the same time I would spend like most of the time outside anyway. Like I would just sleep there, and then during the day I'd be walking around gathering food, or preparing food, or connecting with people, being on the land, walking the dog. So yeah, I would just have a life outside, and it is very much like so. Also with the yurt, like I would not spend much time in it. It's very much designed so that you can live outside, and you're very permeable with the outside world to flow in and out with it, and it's very beautiful to to experience that you kind of become part of it. You wake up with the birds and the light, and then you flow into it and out of it, like you kind of making yourself a nest in nature. And with the teepee, what I experienced in the winter teepee was like we had the gas cooker in there for cooking, and there wasn't really much space to have like lots of clutter around your crockery or something like that. So we ended up having 2 plates, 2 forks, 2 spoons, 2 cups, that kind of setup. And what it meant, it created quite a space of simplicity, because I didn't end up with much dishes to do. Like I just needed to make sure that the plate was always clean, because I wanted to use it next time. So I would eat from it and then I would clean it. And the same with all the other dishes that were there. So yeah, really like a life going back to basics. Especially in the winter teepee time, it was like just minimal crockery, minimal clothing, whatever warm clothing I would have, and the bare essentials really to live with. And also at that time I would be bathing in the stream, so I needed to make sure in winter that I would choose the right day to do that, because I could not get cold really. Like there was no way to get cold living in the teepee. Could have been quite dangerous to my health and my immune system in that time. And funny enough, I never got sick during that time. Like I just really stayed well, because my body was moving, my body was keeping itself warm. Like you really get in touch with yourself, knowing when it's time to put another layer on, and to keep staying warm, knowing that you just cannot get cold, because there's no place to heat yourself up. And the summer teepee was way easier. Like I had an outdoor kitchen where I was living then, and that had a more sophisticated setup. Like there was more dishes and things that I could do and be with. And the only thing that happened, which is interesting, because I was in the summer teepee, I was in the Mutuika Valley, and even in summer it gets really cold in the morning. So in the teepee it was quite an experience during summer in February, to experience quite some really cold mornings, and to just work through that. So it wasn't just warm. And in the yurt it's different. In the yurt the temperature also drops. Like even if you have a fire in there isn't even the little insulation that's there, it doesn't hold the heat in it, so you lose the heat you produce really fast too, and then you end up having a similar temperature to outside inside in the morning. And you just got to put some layers on, sleep with 2 duvets, maybe have a hot water bottle.
And how much does a teepee cost?
It depends. I mean, the teepee that I had, I bought it second hand, so it was really cheap. I think you pay about maybe $3,000 at the moment for a new teepee, 3,000 New Zealand dollars.
And can you talk more about the setup? Or another question, like if you, after living in a teepee during summer and winter, if you would move back into a teepee, how would you set it up with that wisdom that you gathered?
If I moved back in summer, I don't think I would bother with the floor again. I would just be on the earth and have a mattress on the ground. And I don't even know whether I would bother with a skirt on the inside, because I don't think it makes much of a difference. I think it's more useful if you in winter have a fire, to keep things more contained and to not have so much air coming in. So in summer I can imagine it would actually just be the canvas and the bamboo poles, and then obviously making sure I have a rain catcher so that the rain can't drip inside. And I think I would probably still want to. I'm not sure. Like it was, in some ways it was great cooking just inside and having a double gas burner, and it has actually been quite a shift when I was able to cook up again and having a cooking bench. So for that amount of cooking that I do and the preparations with all the food that I collect, I prefer having a kitchen bench. So I think I would want to make sure that I'm not just cooking on the floor, like on the ground, like that I actually have an outdoor kitchen somewhere where I can prepare that. So somewhere between the kitchen that I had in the summer teepee time and the outdoor kitchen that I ended up having later after I was living in the yurt. So something like that. Yeah, I definitely would want that. And yeah, I guess like I mean, if I was doing it in winter again, I would definitely want to have a fire inside of it, like a fire that with a chimney that because you can do that. You can put a fire in there with a chimney that goes out, and then that radiates the heat. And yeah, it would be interesting to experience that. I just need to have a shed or something close by where I can keep all my clothes and other things that need to stay dry. I would give that another shot, especially in Golden Bay. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
Can you speak more about rain and the teepee and the rain catcher and how all of that works?
Yeah, so the rain catcher is a funnel that sits right under the round hole that you basically create at the top, and it catches all the rain, and it's got it is like a funnel, so it's got this tube that goes down through the middle of your teepee, and then it goes outside. So it acts like a gutter in some ways inside. Like it catches the rain, it goes into the funnel and then out, outside the teepee somewhere. And then, like I said, like you just have to watch your drips that are coming down, and you can put. So there is certainly it's good if you use bamboo that you like. There's these places where you have these knots. It's like good to smoothen them out, or you can put I think rubber rings around in those places to divert the water somehow to go down. Yeah, and it's a bit of trial and error, like depending on what wood you use and what setup you've got.
And setup wise, can you speak more about how high it is and how many of these pieces of wood you use?
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's 3 meters high. Not so sure anymore. And it depends. So in terms of the bamboo poles, it depends what size teepee you've got. So you can get them in different diameters, different sizes. I think it starts at 5 meters, and then you can get a 6 and a 7 meter one. And so the bigger you go, the more poles you need to hold it together. And so you can do that with bamboo poles, but you can also get some solid, Douglas fir or maybe even robinia or something poles. They're really solid ones. That might be easier because then you don't have these knots, where the water can dribble away because they're smoother all the way along, and the water can just run down. And then you just have that set of poles. And here in Golden Bay, we can just harvest those bamboo poles and they're free. So it's really hard these days to access this kind of wood, like this kind of hardwood to have that available for the teepee.
And did you also erect the teepees that you've been living in, or?
Yeah. So it's best to do this with 2 people. That's probably the easiest. And you start by it's a really cool process. Like you start by putting 2 poles together, and you lift them up together, and so they're in this cross. And then once you have your cross, you can start putting all the other poles into it. So there's a certain way how they interlace with each other so that the structure supports itself. And you also use a rope to go around that to tighten it up, and there's a certain way how the rope goes around it that then ties it all together. And then the canvas goes up also with a pole. I think it's the last pole that you would normally put up. You hook the canvas onto the last pole, and then you can fold out your teepee around the outside of your poles, and then you attach the teepee with some pegs in the ground. It's really fast when you've got it, dialed, and it's I mean, also with the yurt, like a yurt is a very simple setup too. Probably goes up in 3 hours. So the teepee, I can imagine you can put this up in under an hour somehow once you know how it goes. Yeah.
So would you move back into a teepee, Annika? Is that your next step after the project?
I'm considering spending the summer in it. I don't think I would necessarily want to spend the winter in it again, but yeah, I have a wish to be closer to the forest and be movable if necessary, and so I might consider moving back next summer.
Cool. Thank you, Annika.
Thank you.